welcome back to VH1 Summerfest 94. My name is Chris, here with my hetero life mate, Mr.
Russ.
And we're here with our special guest, sir. Please introduce yourself.
My name's Blake Wright.
Blake Wright, please tell us what you do, and we see some awesome books here on the table, and let us know what that is.
Yeah, I'm a journalist by trade, but starting about 6 years ago, I started writing books about unproduced toys.
Yeah, so we was just talking kind of leading into this. You also have background with guitars, you were saying, and another podcast as well. So you do all types of journalists. It's not just on the toys and stuff.
Yeah, so the actual day job, the one that pays me, that allows me to do all this,
right.
I actually am a journalist covering stories for the energy business here in Houston. So oil and gas, that sort of thing. So the guitar magazine is called Gearphoria. It's online bi-monthly. Been doing it for almost 9 years now.
Nice.
So you can go to gearphoria.com and read that. The toy thing started about 6 years ago, and I wrote the first book, took it to Kickstarter, got it funded, and now we just funded the third book earlier this year, and I just finished proofing that book today.
Well, you also started, you said online, that's Little Plastic Men. You started with that?
Yeah, well, Little Plastic Men was a magazine too, like Gearphoria. After the first year of Gearphoria, I was like, man, I love this template that I've built so much that I really would like to plug something else in that's not guitars and use the same kind of format.
Your other passion.
Right.
Yeah.
So instead of guitars, amps, and pedals, it's now play sets, vehicles, and figures.
Nice.
Okay.
So we did Little Plastic Men for all of 2014, but I messed up with the model. The Gearphoria model is free to read. Advertisers pay me money, which works great for guitars.
Right.
Does not work good for toys. So I opted.
Little learning curve for you.
So I opted to stop the magazine, but there was a column in there called "Prototypically Unproductive," which was all about unproduced toys.
Right.
And that seemed to be the thing that people were most excited to read.
Gravitated to.
So I was like, you know what? I'll do one more issue. I'll do it all unproduced toys, and that'll be like sayonara. So we're going to do a fifth issue. Well, the fifth issue turned into Toys That Time Forgot Volume 1.
Right. So I have a little questions for you, because I'm somewhat in the toy collecting business myself.
Sure.
And I go after the rare toys, somewhat rare toys. And some of the rare toys that I go after are the WWF Hasbro from the 1990s, because that's my era, that's when I grew up. So therefore I go for the WWF Hasbro. And there are some toys like the Macho King and everything like that never got made. Have you ever seen, or have you ever been to factories or met anyone that have these toys, these molds that never made? Have you ever met anyone?
Well, I've met a ton of people. To WWF or WWE Hasbro specific, I'm not recalling any. I'm sure I've met people who've worked on the line.
Right.
And I'm sure that there are more unproduced toys to that line than we even know.
Of course.
Just because, I mean, in talking to these guys, a lot of executives from different companies or guys that worked in the sculpting department or whatever, the number that we keep landed on is we probably only see about 30 to 35% of anything a toy company actually works on ever hit store shelves.
Whoa.
Wow.
So think about that for a second. 30%.
I feel like that's a lot of money missed too, though, because
Yeah.
it takes you time and money to actually get it even that far in development, and then to just not go through with it.
You've got these guys working, you're paying salary to these artists who are working on this thing.
Right.
So you've got drawings and early prototypes and this, that, and the other. I mean, the real investment comes when you start cutting steel. So when you start tooling up the toy to actually get it made, manufactured.
Get the molds and stuff.
So up until that point, you're still usually okay.
Okay.
But as soon as you start cutting steel, that's a hefty investment. So you really need to know that this is going to work for me to do that.
How strong would be like the collector side of that? Like, can you still find a lot of these toys, like the original molds and things like that?
There is a...
Oh, they're out there in the wild.
Yeah. There is a group of collectors that are specifically focused on unproduced stuff.
Unproduced.
So, I mean, it's not very many. They have very deep pockets.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It being so specialized, they would have to.
So, I mean, in all my travels, everyone's usually asked me, man, how much of this stuff do you have now? You find it, you buy it all, right? It's like, actually, no. I'm a collector of stories at this stage in my life.
Okay.
But I have purchased a few things along the way, just stuff that was near and dear to me that I knew I would probably never get a chance to purchase again.
Right.
So, but minimal investment compared to the tens of thousands of dollars I probably could have spent if I was just gobbling all this stuff up.
So the one thing that comes to mind is the Boba Fett toy that was never made because of the missile that would shoot up and you could choke on it, how choke hazard.
Right.
Did you ever come across that, or did you ever hear stories around that?
Yeah, so that, I mean, the story there was, Mattel and the Cylon Raider.
Right.
Their toy, which was from Battlestar Galactica, which had a firing mechanism, and basically a kid got it for birthday or Christmas or whatever and turned the thing on himself and opened his mouth and fired that missile into his throat.
Whoa.
And I forget if the kid.
But then, like, how can something like Nerf and like those are projectiles and stuff? They can still.
Yeah, but they're like big foam. This was like a little small plastic thingy.
It became a thing where it had to be a certain size.
But I remember when I was a kid, there was still little projectile things, right? Like Spider-Man would have some stuff, right?
It had to be a certain size and it had to be made of certain material. So it wasn't. They didn't totally outlaw projectiles, but they made it to where, because I mean, the Boba Fett missile, if you've ever seen one, is only about an inch and a half long. And the Cylon one is probably a little longer than that.
Gotcha.
But a kid got it in his throat, and then that pretty much did end the rocket firing Boba Fett. But there actually are more samples of that than you would think.
Wow.
Because they had started the process of.
Well, I mean, the kid had it. So
well, that's why you see. Well, as far as the Boba Fett, that's why you see the. You see the engineering versions of him that have the J slot in the back.
I know what you mean. I know what. Yeah.
So they were tinkering with this thing all along. So there are samples of each of those out there trying to figure out just what mechanism was going to work best, even before they realized that this is never going to make it out.
So there were samples of what they were doing.
Yeah.
And those are out in the wild, and people own them. People buy those.
Oh, you bet.
Those things are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars.
I mean, I've seen the first one I saw was actually in my own house. A collector brought it back in the mid '90s. He had paid $5,000 for it.
In the '90s too. Wow.
Right.
Man,
in the mid '90s. Now that thing is, I think it's a 6-digit toy.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
If you
Most
want to try to
definitely.
buy it now.
That's an investment.
Yeah. The last one I saw was there's a fairly well-known collector up in Seattle that has a ton of unproduced and produced and very rare Star Wars stuff.
Wow.
And he has one.
Now, could you imagine that? A toy from the 90s or a toy from the 70s that was made, and today it could buy you a home.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Well, not in this market, because I'm buying a house right now.
Market's tough right now.
It's a good down payment.
It's a good down payment.
So you started off with the magazine, transitioned into the book. Where could people find the magazine? Where do you sell the book now, or do you have to be a Kickstarter in order?
No. So the magazine's gone.
Okay.
If you really want to look at copies of Little Plastic Men, you can email me or find me on Facebook, and I can send you the PDFs. But I had the website up for a long time, but I ended up taking it down just because I didn't need it. It wasn't doing anything.
Right.
It was just dormant. The books themselves, after the Kickstarters are fulfilled, I usually have copies left over. Okay. So I will either sell them direct through social media, or my one retail partner is Big Bad Toy Store.
Bad Toy Store.
So you can get Volume 2 on Big Bad Toy Store right now.
Okay. The third one's going to be sold there as well?
The third one will likely be sold there as well. They haven't made a purchase order commitment yet, but I'm assuming that they will. We're also in the midst of reprinting Volume 1 right now because it's completely sold out.
Oh.
I'm assuming they will also.
Hey, no, man, it'll be like the toys that Time forgot as well. You know what I'm saying? It's a collector's edition.
Go look at eBay to the last couple of closed auctions for Volume 1. It's like $150, $200.
Nice.
And it's a $50 book or $60 book. So, I mean, they're already getting premiums.
Hey, man.
Well, sir, wrapping things up here, thank you so much for joining us here. But we want to know where we can find you. Where can the public find your books? And how can they get in contact with you? If they have any questions for you, or if they say, hey, I have these toys, I have these molds, I want them in the books, and I want to show you, like, come on down. You're the next contestant.
Yeah, so, Facebook's probably the easiest way. The book has a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Toys That Time Forgot. It's also on Instagram @Toys That Time Forgot. If you're a Twitter person, I'm on Twitter @Blake_E_Wright, WRIGHT.
Awesome. One last question before we head out. What do you have coming up next? Do you have any other events that you're popping up at? Where can people see you?
Yeah, I'm. Volume 3, like I said, just got finished proofing today, so we're going to get that to the printer. I am probably going to do a con in North Carolina called NC Toy Con.
Okay.
They haven't announced the fall date yet, but they've had to push it because of COVID.
Yeah.
So that's probably going to be in the fall sometime. I don't have a date on it, but nctoycon.com will probably catch you up on that. And then when the book comes out, when I get my hands on the physical copies, which will probably be sometime in the fall, like October-ish.
Right.
I usually do a little book tour in and around Houston, where I pop up at some of the little stores here,
like comic shops and
stuff. Yeah, so
and,
like Space Cadets up in the Woodlands have done it there before.
Jen King.
Yeah, I've done it with Robert Pohl over at Dragon's Lair off of 249.
Oh, super dope. Okay.
So a few others. So yeah, that'll be the next thing. Just keep track of me on social media, and I'll let you know.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Blake Wright, for joining us here at SummerSlam 1994. Back to you, Vince McMahon, in the studio. We'll be here and we'll be sweating. Russ, take it away.
And we here at Saint Arnolds. Peace.